The four divisions. People of our time possess four ways that lead to the unknown, four forms of conception of the world: religion, philosophy, science, and art. These ways diverged long ago, and the very fact of their divergence shows their remoteness from the source of origin, that is, from esotericism. In ancient Egypt, in Greece, and in India there were periods when the four constituted one whole. If we apply the principle of Abba Dorotheos to the general examination of religion, philosophy, science, and art, we see clearly why our forms of conception of the world cannot serve as a way to truth. They are forever being broken up, forever being divided, and they are forever contradicting both themselves and each other. Obviously, the more they are broken up and separated from one another, the further they depart from the truth. Truth is at the center where the four ways converge. Consequently, the nearer they are to one another, the nearer they are to truth. The further from one another, the further from truth. The division of each of these ways within itself, that is to say the subdivision into systems, schools, churches, and doctrines, denotes great remoteness from reality. We see in fact that the number of divisions, far from diminishing, actually increases in every domain and sphere of human activity. This shows us that the trend of human activity leads not to truth, but in the opposite direction. If we try to define the significance of the four ways of the spiritual life of humanity, we see first of all that they fall into two categories. Philosophy and science are intellectual, classic ways. Religion and art are emotional, romantic ways. Each of these corresponds to a definite intellectual or emotional type. However, this division does not explain everything that may seem to us unintelligible or enigmatic in the sphere of religion, art, or knowledge. In each of these areas of human activity there are phenomena and aspects that are entirely incommensurable, and which do not merge into one another. Yet it is only when they are combined into one whole that they cease to distort truth and lead mankind to the right path. Many will protest the concept that religion, philosophy, science, and art represent similar, equivalent, and equally imperfect ways of seeing truth. To a religious man, the idea will appear disrespectful to religion. To a man of science it will appear insulting to science. To an artist it will appear a mockery of art, and to a philosopher it will appear a naivete based upon a lack of understanding of what philosophy is. We need therefore to define the basis of the division of the four ways at the present time. Religion is founded upon revelation. Revelation is something proceeding immediately from higher consciousness or higher powers of mind. If there is no idea of revelation, then there is no religion. In religion there is always something unknowable by the ordinary mind and ordinary thinking. For this reason no attempts to create an artificial synthetic religion by intellectual methods have ever led, or can ever lead anywhere. The result is not a religion but only bad philosophy. All reformations and attempts at simplifying or rationalizing a religion bring about equally negative results. On the other hand, revelation, or what is given by revelation, must surpass all knowledge. When we find on the contrary that religion is centuries, or even, as happens in many cases, thousands of years behind science and philosophy, the main inference is that it is not religion but only pseudo-religion. The withered corpse of what once was or may have been religion. Unfortunately, all religions that are known to us in their church form are only pseudo-religions. Philosophy is based on speculation, on logic, on thought, on the synthesis of what we know, and on the analysis of what we do not know. Philosophy must include within its confines the whole content of science, religion, and art. But where can such a philosophy be found? All that we know in our time by the name of philosophy is not philosophy, but merely critical literature or the expression of personal opinions, mainly with the aim of overthrowing and destroying other personal opinions. Or, which is still worse, philosophy is nothing but self-satisfied dialectic, surrounding itself with an impenetrable barrier or terminology unintelligible to the uninitiated, and solving for itself all the problems of the universe without any possibility of proving these explanations, or making them intelligible to ordinary mortals. Science is based on hypothesis, experiment, and observation. It must know no fear, must have no dogmas, and must create no taboo for itself. But contemporary science, by the mere fact of having cut itself off sharply from religion and mysticism, i.e. by having set up for itself a definite taboo, has become an accidental and unreliable instrument of thought. The constant fear of this taboo compels it to shut its eyes to a whole series of inexplicable and unintelligible phenomena, deprives it of wholeness and unity, and as a result brings it about that we have no science but sciences. The words of Bazarov, the hero of Turgenev's novel Fathers and Sons. Art is based on emotional understanding, on the feeling of the unknown that lies behind the visible, and the tangible, and on creative power. The power that is to reconstruct in visible or audible forms the artist's sensations, feelings, visions and moods. Particularly a certain figurative sensation which is in fact the feeling of the harmonious interconnection and oneness of everything. The feeling of the soul or essence of things and phenomena. Like science and philosophy, art is a definite way of knowledge. The artist, in creating, learns much that he did not know before. But an art which does not reveal mysteries, which does not lead to the sphere of the unknown, does not yield new knowledge becomes a parody of art. Still more often it is not even a parody, but simply a commerce or an industry. Pseudo-religion, pseudo-philosophy, pseudo-science, and pseudo-art are practically all that we know. We are fed on substitutes, on margarine in all aspects and forms. Very few know the taste of the genuine article. But between genuine religion, genuine art, genuine science on the one hand and the substitutes that we call religion, art and science on the other, there exist many intermediary stages corresponding to the different levels of man's development, with different understanding pertaining to each level. The cause of the existence of these different levels lies in the existence of the deep radical inequality which exists between men. It is very difficult to define this difference between men, but it exists, and religions as well as everything else are divided in accordance with it. It cannot be said, for example, that paganism exists and that Christianity exists. But it can be said that there are pagans and there are Christians. A Christianity can be paganism and a paganism can be Christianity. In other words, there are many people to whom Christianity is paganism, that is to say those people who turn Christianity into paganism, just as they would turn any religion into paganism. In every religion there are different levels of understanding. Every religion may be understood in one way or in another way. Literal understanding, deification of the word, of the form of the ritual, makes paganism of the most exalted and most subtle religion. Capacity for emotional discrimination, for the understanding of the essence of spirit, of symbolism, the manifestation of mystical feelings can make an exalted religion out of what may externally seem to be a primitive cult or nature worship. The difference lies not in the ideas, but in the men who receive and reproduce the ideas, and so it is too in art, in philosophy and in science. One and the same idea is understood in different ways by different people of different levels, and as often happens, their understanding differs completely. If we realize this, it becomes clear that we cannot speak of religion, art or science etc. Different people have different sciences, different arts, different philosophies, and different religions. If we knew how and in what respect people differ from one another, we would understand how and in what respect different religions, arts, and sciences differ from one another. This idea can be expressed more precisely, taking the example of religion, by saying that all ordinary divisions such as Christianity, Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, as well as divisions within Christianity like the Orthodox Church, Catholicism, Protestantism, and further subdivisions of each creed such as sects and so on are, so to speak, divisions on one plane. It must be understood that besides these divisions there exist divisions of level. That is to say, there is Christianity on one level of understanding and feeling, and then there is the Christianity of another level of understanding and feeling. Beginning from a very low outward ritual or hypocritical level, which passes into the persecution of all heterodox thinking, right up to the very high level of Jesus Christ or the Buddha himself. These divisions, these levels, are unknown to us, and we can understand their idea and principle only through the ideas of the inner circle. This means that if we admit that there is truth at the origin of everything and that there are different degrees of distortion of the truth, then we shall see that in this way truth is gradually brought down to our level, though of course in a completely unrecognizable form. The idea of esotericism also reaches people in the form of pseudo-esotericism or pseudo-occultism. The cause of this lies again in the difference in the levels of men themselves. Most people can accept truth only in the form of a lie. But while some of them are satisfied with a lie, others begin to seek further and may in the end come to truth. Church Christianity has completely distorted the ideas of Christ, but, starting from the church form, some people who are pure at heart may by way of feeling, come to a right understanding of the original truth. It is difficult for us to realize that we are surrounded by distortions and perversions, that apart from these distortions and perversions we can receive nothing from outside. We have difficulty in understanding this because the fundamental tendency of contemporary thought consists precisely in examining phenomena in the order opposite to that just mentioned. We are accustomed to conceive every idea, every phenomenon, whether in the domain of religion, art, or public life, as appearing first in some crude primitive form. In the form of a mere adaptation to organic conditions and of crude degenerate instincts of fear, of desire or memory of something still more elementary and still more primitive. Animal, vegetable, embryonic, gradually evolving and becoming more refined and more complicated, gradually affecting more and more sides of life, and thus approaching the ideal form. Such a tendency of thought is of course opposed to the idea of esotericism, which holds that the majority of our ideas are not the product of evolution, but the product of the degeneration of ideas which existed at some time or are still existing somewhere in much higher, purer and more complete forms. This, to the modern way of thinking, is a mere absurdity. We are so convinced that we are the highest product of evolution, that we know everything. So sure that there cannot be on this earth any significant phenomena such as schools or groups or systems, which have not hitherto been known or acknowledged or discovered by us. We have difficulty even in admitting the logical possibility of such an idea. If we want to master the elements of such an idea, we must understand that they are incompatible with the idea of evolution in the ordinary sense of the word. It is impossible to regard our civilization, our culture, as unique or the highest. It must be regarded as one of many cultures that have succeeded one another on the earth. Furthermore, these cultures, each in its own way, distorted the idea of esotericism which lay at their foundation. Not one of them ever rose, even approximately, to the level of its source. However, such a view would be far too revolutionary, for it would shake the very foundations of all modern thought. Would involve a revision of all scientific philosophies of the world and would make perfectly useless, even ridiculous, whole libraries of books on the basis of the theory of evolution. Above all, it would necessitate the withdrawal from the scene of a whole series of great men of the past, present, and future. This view therefore can never become popular and is not likely to take its place alongside other views.